let's go. Hopefully everything is set to go for one final YouTube 2020. Alright. I think everything is good. So today, well tonight, I really wanted to show you one of my favorite games that I played. So this was back in 2015 in Chigorin Memorial. I have shown the other games from this tournament, but I really wanted to talk about this one because last time we talked a little bit about some Lopez ideas, and I so wanted to kind of mix it up a little, show my experience with this line. And I especially liked it because, well, he was higher rated by 200 something, and this was one of the first tournaments that I didn't make my IM norm. So I had like a bunch of these tournaments that I played. I was so close. I would get a WGM norm, but I would not get an IM norm, and that it was just so frustrating. So anybody who is hunting norm or has recently finished hunting norms have probably felt what I felt. It was just yes. So hopefully this won't be the timeline for this video. So I really enjoyed this game specifically because I prepared for it, so I kind of knew what I was doing a little bit before the game. But I really enjoyed it because the game overall turned out to be very great, and I bluffed on it a little, so it was really good. I'm gonna go ahead and get started because it's a very long game and I would hate for it not to finish. Alright. So against Ruy Lopez, those of you who have been around and know me know that I do generally weird stuff with G6 and D6 and Knight D7, and I rarely do A6. So I got this A6, and after I got my A6, this was my preparation because I knew that my opponent plays this closed line, and my biggest question was, so if he's going to play D3 and if he does not usually play this D4 lines either with C3, or if he doesn't intend to do D4 anytime early on, then why can't I just go for the same thing and just throw a G6 a little later on? And so that is what I did. I went for this after D3, D6, C3, and I did my G6. So this is not very common, but it was one of my biggest questions, that if you are not going to play D4, then G6 is going to work out, so why shouldn't I do it? And so I did. So for those of you who also experienced this G6 and have these type of questions about transpositions, feel free to question it, because even if the opening line, this is not the first choice or the second choice or the third choice, if this idea is not that, it doesn't mean that it's not a good idea. It just means you gotta be creative. Imani, well, I got my first norm and I crossed 2400 in Austria Bundesliga. It was great, actually. And I also kind of got drunk after that. I was already 18. It was Europe. It was great. And then I got my second one. No, sorry, first and second one in the same month. Yeah, and then third one I got it over the summer. So talking about G5, well, Bishop G5s are always kind of possible, but it doesn't really do much because I always have this H6. You can go to E3, but I'm gonna do this Bishop G7 anyways, so it doesn't really do much, to be honest. So in the game, my opponent castled, and yes, he could have tried for D4s, but also leaves E4 vulnerable. And this is very similar to this starting with G6. Let me go back. Starting with G6. Let's say you play C3. Let's say you castle. I kick you. Oops, that's not the right way. I kick you away. And then this is a similar position, but one tempi less, because now I would have knight f6 and it would leave black to move again. If you were to play like d4, because you play the d3 and then a d4, it kind of wastes the time. I played Austria Bundesliga in 2016, February, I think it was. Yeah, I was playing for them 2015-16. I was also playing for the Switzerland Bundesliga. Our team actually won. Very proud. I was seriously considering moving to Switzerland, but somehow I still had my heart set for US because I already speak the language. But yeah, I wouldn't mind living in Switzerland. It's very green, less headaches. But well, anyways, that's a whole different conversation. So g6, my opponent played this castle and bishop g7, rook e1, and I went for normal stuff with castle. And ooh, GMP, she just woke up. Nope, never mind. Just changed position. Okay, that's actually very cute. Knight d2. Now, my question to you. So you guys kind of are somewhat very briefly familiar with the ideas that are in this line. So what do you think? What do you think White wants to do? What do you think Black wants to do? I'll give you a little hint. White, generally in Lopez, White wants to do this cool idea of going to f5. But since we already have g6, that's kind of non-existent anymore. So what do you think? Ha, Johnny, I saw that. It's kind of funny. I'm Annie. For Switzerland, I know I played for Gonzen. For Spain, I played for Montcada. For Austria, I don't remember. For Belgium, I think I played for Ghent. I might be wrong. It's been like 3 years, 4 years, almost 5 years now. Entering 2021. Whoa. Yeah, Black might want to try something like that, but f5s would only seriously work if the center is already closed. If this, and there's so many amazing Carlsen, Caruana, Anand, all of those big guys games, at least around 2014, 15, 16 on these lines. Because I remember there were so many great games that I was learning when I was just beginning to learn this game, this opening. So that is something that you could seriously consider if you are considering to learning this opening. No, I don't think that this is a good idea because that doesn't really do much. You should try and keep your bishops because with this type of centers, when everything is possible, you don't know. You might want to take over here, throw like the bishop on c5. So you shouldn't just give up the bishop. So yeah. Yep, Harry, you are correct. That is possible, Steve. So it is Black to move. What do you think we should do as Black? White just played this knight d2. Normal move, doesn't really want to do much, just normal moves. Aw, thank you, Ananan. You could try something, yeah, you could potentially try moving the knight c65. But so generally in Lopez, we don't want to rush into it, especially with this e5 pawn being weak. You can't just do this. Your e5 pawn will be very punished. One thing that you shouldn't do, Oscar, is to move this knight and play f5 unless this pawn is already on d5. That's something that I've done a few times and actually does get you very uncomfortable if you just start moving your knight and pushing your pawn when the center is still not closed. You will get punished and it's not pretty. Yeah, even when I was playing lower rated, I had a hard time trying to find something. b5 is the move I went for. Bishop b3, knight a5, bishop c2, c5. So I got some stuff in the center. I might want to start poking around here a little bit. I might want to do a queen c7, get the bishop out. So this is very Lopez typical. So if you do play Lopez with white or black, this is a very typical thing to do with your bishop on e7 usually. But the bishop is also on g7, very prime position, because imagine if you can get a b4 and open up this this bad boy. That's gonna be a lot of fun. Ah. Thank you, thank you. I don't know if that's Ben or Tracy, but thank you for catching that. Anyways, so my opponent played knight f1. He's a grandmaster, the Ukrainian, 2560, 2570, almost. So this is, he's not a kid. He knows what he's doing. So I was trying my best to behave and be very cautious of what I was doing. And I didn't want to rush it. Rook e8 is a good choice, but I wasn't 100% sure where I wanted this rook. But I knew I wanted this queen to be somewhere in the queen side. So where do you guys think this queen should go? Where do you think it would benefit us more? I don't really feel the bishop g4. I don't really know what I want to do with this bishop, because you can always do like a knight e3 and poke this bishop, and I don't really want to come back. So I'm gonna keep my bishop here. You could try this, yes, that is one of the things. I went for queen c7 because it was kind of defending e5. I could try to do like a rook d8. I wasn't entirely sure what to do with my bishop, and that was one of my biggest problems. So in the game, my opponent played this a4. And so the idea of a4 is pretty obvious, right? He wants to open up a little bit in the king side, wants to poke a little bit, queen side, tries to open the rook. I made a decision to play bishop d7. I do think bishop b7 was a little bit smarter, to be honest, because I could start considering d5 more seriously, but I think I slightly chickened out, and I went for bishop d7. The problem with bishop d7 is this knight e3, as happened in the game, and it's not like a big problem. It's not like white gets anything out of it, but it just makes white a little bit more comfortable. In the game, I just went with rook e8. Again, here, what do you think? Can we take it? Should we push it? What do you think we should do as black? Also, it's kind of funny, the flexible truth, I've been reading a little of the organic chemistry for MCAT, and the easy is like this system that you do to like assign priorities when there is a double bond, and that kind of got me a little PTSD, nothing that serious with organic chemistry. Oof. Oh, bishop c6 is interesting. I kind of think b4 would be the way to go. Nimi, no, not necessarily. I don't think we should take it, because if you take it, you are giving your opponent a serious guide to go after. He is going to take it, and if you take it, that's not really going to be pleasant, because you have this dark squared bishop, all of these dark squared pawns. Your pawn is just like a tall pawn. Your bishop is like a tall pawn. This is another weakness. I don't think we should do that. You don't want to give your opponent chances to whoop you, generally. Here my opponent, I mean, I think I was considering b4. I didn't do b4. I thought b4 would be interesting. If you take it, then I take it, and that is actually pretty cool. I can think about b3s. I could think about maybe moving this bishop a little. Now I know where to go with this bishop. I could try to move this rook a little bit. It would be more interesting. But I think I was worried that if b4, just bishop d2, and maybe then I could do like a queen b7. That's something to consider, because b3 is also coming up. In the game, I was a little hesitant, and I didn't do this. This is, I think, what I should have done. Just, I did a different move order. I played queen b7 first, which is a very normal move, nothing wrong with it. I am still planning on pushing this pawn. However, I kind of gave my opponent the chance to stop me. So white to move, how do you think white is going to stop this idea of b4, b3? Because let's be real. If h3, I will play b4, and then I will play b3, and your bishop is gonna get pretty ugly. So black to move. Sorry, white to move. How can white stop you? Um, I'm glad. Oh, well, I Manny, b4 is something to consider, but b4 right now or b4 after like a takes b5 and then b4? If you were to play b4 right away, take, and knight c6. It's good, but knight d4 is also coming up. Also take. No, I'm not going to actually do this because you would simply have take, and now my knight is a bit misplaced. Bishop can go to a3 and kind of like starts to minimize my knight's moves. Maybe I would just take back, probably with the same pawn. With take, interesting. Bishop d2 to defend this. This is also interesting. I think b4 could have worked, but taking first is a tiny bit sneakier, because now I take it and then you do b4. Now I have a choice. Do I take it or do I play knight c6? Which one do you think we should do? Oh, hi, Exquisite. No, queen b5 wouldn't really work. Well, taking is actually very interesting because after take, knight c6, we get to the same position. And rook a8, rook a8. Black does have a little bit of an edge. I think this line would have been quite pleasant for black with the queen b7 early on, right here. I made a little move choice inaccuracy. Whoops. I played rook e8 first because I wasn't sure if what I want to do. I was thinking maybe I can still try and push for d5s. And so I played this rook e8. This is still a perfectly fine move. You don't really have to worry about it. There's nothing wrong with it. It just kind of doesn't exactly go with the flow, and that was a small problem that I faced later on. Because my opponent did bishop d2, preparing for this b4, and then I did my queen b7. But now I didn't really have to do queen b7 because the position kind of shifted a little. Now, if I do this queen b7, my opponent can easily do this b4, the queen is defending a1, and that's like a tiny better version of the other position that we saw. Yep, this is kind of a Chigorin line, but with the bishop on g7. So I'm gonna go back to before queen b7 and ask you guys. So black to move, what do you think we should do? I agree, Yaroslav. It was, I wasn't completely certain exactly what plan I wanted to do, which I think was a big mistake. If I was playing this right now, I would be like, okay, so if I'm gonna play in the queen side, I'm not really gonna do a d5, so I don't really need a rook on e8. I would have kind of eliminated rook e8, but this was not the last round. I think this was one of the last rounds leading, I think it was like round 7 out of 9. And I was a little nervous, to be completely honest, and I was playing a high rated. I really wanted to get my norms, and this wasn't exactly going, it wasn't as easy. What is Ruy Lopez? It's the opening e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishops b5. You are correct, Harry. c4 would be interesting, because now if you play d4, now I can do queen b7 and start going after this poor guy while defending my guy and keeping an eye on your guy. So a lot of fun stuff happening. Okay, so let's go back. I went for queen b7, take, b4, take, and knight comes back. See, if the bishop was on c1, like we wanted to have it, like in the other position with my rook on f8, I wouldn't have lost the tempo. It's not such a huge deal, but it's just like little things like this add up together, and then your opponent ends up getting an advantage. So he played bishop to b3, going after f7. Well, maybe not there's exact going after f7, just placing it in an ideal diagonal. I like that explanation better. So black to move, how are you going to come up with a plan? Captain Doll, I see some fun emojis. What's up? That is true, taking is a blunder. But you see this bishop coming to b3 and you might feel a little uncomfortable, so how can you help that? Bishop e6 is definitely a candidate move. Was I just trying to draw? No, I was setting trap, but at the same time I wasn't going to take unnecessary risks. Like here I wouldn't play something like knight d4 or take rook takes a1. Actually rook takes a1 is not so bad. I wouldn't do unnecessary risks. What is going on here? That is a very great question. My opponent is trying to poke around and I don't like getting poked. That might be an interesting idea to try and rearrange the knight a little, but right now something like knight g5 might bother me, so I decided to just play h6. It's not a bad move, but it's also not like the best move. I do think that the best move here would have probably just been rook bishop e6. If you take it, I simply take it back with the pawn. That is what I was unsure about. I was not sure about this pawn structure, and that is why I didn't actually go into this line. But this pawn at this point, but this pawn structure is actually perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with it. It's not exactly everybody's dream. Like you don't sit at night in your bed and look in the ceiling and you're like, oh my god, I really want that pawn structure. But it is a very doable pawn structure. Nothing really wrong with it. I was just a little not. It didn't feel right. I could have. No, taking here would not really be as wise because now take, and then knight d5 is coming up because you can't take it. And also this knight c7, so you can't really do rook e8. This knight d5 would really punish you. Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of this line. So I just was like, okay, you want my f7 pawn? Ain't gonna happen. I just played h6. Nice reference, Alexander. You got my joke. Yeah, so my opponent also played h3. I really don't know why. I guess just why not? And so in the game, what do you think we should do? You can see that opponent is also not in a rush. You can see that none of you guys, none white or black, actually has like a super plan, and it's a super strategy game. So how are you going to play? Thank you, James Pratt. I think so too. I'm kidding. Sure, Peachy thinks so too. Why is queen wrong on b3? I don't think queen is wrong on b3, but I do like this idea of having this knight on e6, but at the same time my knight on c6 is something that he doesn't have. So this knight could become a little more interesting just where it is than on e6. So what about doubling up? Because another thing that I have is the queen on b7, and the rooks could just double up when my opponent can't. So why shouldn't we use that? Yeah, let's take the a file. Thank you, Rahul. Yep, let's go up, rook a6. Now, to be fair, my opponent should have used this time and played knight d5. If I take it, knight bishop takes, and try to poke around and make some pins and needles and stuff like that. And that is something that my opponent could have done, but he didn't. And he simply played bishop c3. Now I brought my other rook. I could have taken and then played bishop e6. This is something that I really should do at some point. And if I remember correctly, I did, but not in next few. Not right away. Right away, I wanted to take this file, which doesn't really do much because these bishops are really protecting everything on it. So my opponent played queen b1. I can't really think why this queen b1 mattered. I'm assuming maybe queen wants to go to b2 and just try to do something here. So now, black to move, what do you think we should do? There are a few holes that we could try to poke. And this is a little scary. My cat has been sleeping up there for the last 3 hours. And then he was also sleeping next to me in bed for about most of the morning/afternoon too. He did have a stressful day on Saturday. It's Tuesday, get over it. Hi Manny, I agree. He needs to rest. He can come rest right next to me so I can pet him while he rests. Nobody's actually saying that exact move. So one thing is this hole to be poked. We could just go do this. That's one thing. But the idea of nope, not that. The idea of knight h5 makes me slightly uncertain because of this knight d5, and then we would do bishop e6 and then try to take it and do knight f4. That doesn't really feel as happy. So I just went for bishop e6 in the game finally. I was ready that when you take, and you do this queen b3, I thought I was a little happy because I liked the idea of you lost the tempo to get here instead of just doing queen b3. So I kind of liked that idea. I thought it was like I was winning something from you. I was like stealing the tempo. So I like that. I went queen e7. It's perfectly normal. Queen d7 was also doable. He did rook c1, going after this knight. Now, black to move. Again, what do you think we should do? Keep in mind this is a very strategic move, and I am black. I am playing higher rated opponents, and I'm trying to hold my ground while setting many traps for him. Disc free, ooh, books. Well, it really depends on how much time you have, because if you have enough time and if you are that dedicated, everything is easier with a private trainer. But if you don't and you want to do it on your own, I would recommend having some friends that you can exchange information and play with. That's another thing. Chess.com and Lichess both do have very great material to just try to get you started. I don't know your age, but I've become a big fan of Chess Kids. They actually do have very nice videos for beginners that kind of goes through everything you need to know, how the pieces move, how that's like super beginner. It also has like more tactics, how to think about tactics. It's very organized, so I recommend that for any beginner regardless of their age. It is called Chess Kids, but it does have very basic videos. Anyways, I don't think that this knight is in any serious danger at the moment, but you could simply try to just maneuver around a little. I think knight h5, I'm not the biggest fan. It is doable, but I'm not the biggest fan. I went for knight d7 in the game. I wanted to go up here, and he did bishop d2, stopping my knight b6. I just, at this point, I was like, you know what? We're doing this tango. I want to do something. You block it. You want to do something. I block it. Let's just do this king h7. don't have to worry about any kind of checks. My king is also protecting my pawns. My king is safe. Let's keep it there. I went for that, and he did knight c2. Now, what do you think we should do? Can we continue with this idea? Should we move this knight somewhere else? Should we do anything? What do you think we should do? Actually, knight f6 is a very good move. I think it's actually the best move. You realize your nice job is done there. You go back. d5 doesn't really work. There are two attackers, only one defender. Careful. But I assume the idea of knight f6 is to play d5. Oh, also I see the number of viewers are going up. Lovely. Should make Tracy happy. You could actually, probably you could try to do something like this, but the problem is knight a3 and goes out, start attacking this pawn. So that is why you actually need to move this guy, so you could come queen b7 and defend your pawn when there is a knight a3. So let's say you played knight f6, knight a3, queen b7. That's something you could play because he can't really eat your pawn now, loses the knight. But you have to be careful because as black, these are your weaknesses. So you should be careful with these pawns. Knight b6 again. Problem is knight a3 and your pawn falls. So I played knight f8. Knight f8 was not. It was the second best move. The best move was knight f6. I went knight f8. Yep, Harry, knight f8. And he played h4, which I don't fully understand. I wasn't really planning on queen a7, but I mean, I got the chance after h4. I was like, yep, let's go queen a7. We are gonna start moving around this rook. And I do think that bishop e3 was the best one, so congratulations. You saw this move and a grandmaster didn't. And I'm talking about my opponent. I see every move. h4, queen a7, trying to poke around with the rook a little. And now he went g3, and I was just like, huh? I didn't really understand what my opponent was trying to do, but the one thing I knew I should do is, well, I don't really like having hanging stuff, so this knight could be hanging. So let's just go queen a8. We're defending the knight. I like having my stuff defended. He played bishop c3, and I finally did rook a2. There's no serious threat with the rook here, but it just looks good. I also might do queen a4. Yeah, Manny, exactly. You shouldn't just follow the same plan. That is one of the big differences between 2300 and 2500 is that they only they have to be able to make that flexibility, to be flexible, to make that small change. So I had some ideas. So what do you think is the best move for white? We were almost halfway through with the game. Actually, never mind, my bad. It's almost halfway, yeah. Oh, thank you. Yep, rook a1, you guys are correct. d4 is another idea that white could have had, just to try and go for d4 and try to open up a little bit, but I would probably still do this queen a4. Because if you take it, now that's going to be kind of cool now. I could take it with the pawn, try and poke around a little here. I kind of like this idea. But my opponent's went rook a1. I have to take, and I was a little confused because I thought, okay, you might want to do some stuff here, so let's try to stop you. So I went for bishop f6. My idea was simply to, if you play something like h5, I could take it and then like do knight g6 and h4. I just like the idea of having my bishop against your knight. So after bishop f6, he played bishop b2. I'm assuming bishop b2 was just a simple move to free the knight. The one thing that I would strongly recommend to everybody is generally, as a general rule, try to always have your pieces protected with something. Don't leave dropping pieces, don't leave hanging pieces, because those are going to be the tactical, the things that are gonna be eaten tactically, or at least maneuvered on, or abused and used, and all those stuff that you don't want to have. So you shouldn't. Try your best to not leave any of your pieces hanging, and that's one thing that he did very nicely. Didn't leave any hanging pieces. This position is very equal. We both have equal chances. We're both trying to just find the better moves and just hang in there, basically. I don't think anybody is actually better at this position. White does seem to have a very small advantage, but trying to convert that is going to be very hard. So my opponent just went for bishop b2, just king g7. I am keeping my stuff all protected, not leaving any man behind, any soldier behind. Bishop c1, trying to poke around a little. Now black to move. What do you think we should do? The move that I did looked good practically, but it didn't. I slightly regretted it in the game. Squeezed, I see you've been trying to do d5. The problem with d5 is that if white doesn't take, your pawn on d5 is extremely misplaced, because you can't take on e4 because your e5 and e6 will be very weak. You can't push on d4 because again your e5 and e6 will be very weak. So d5, you should only play d5 when white absolutely has to take it. No, we're done moving the king. I mean, you could play king h7, but it doesn't really do anything for you. Oh, guys, we're not accepting challenges. Also, queen a4, queen a4, possible. White could simply do something like queen c3, maybe. That's something to keep in mind. I don't really, it doesn't really feel like there's much to it. You would probably just come back. In the game, what do you guys think about knight d4? Huh. I don't think this command of I am Rosen works here unless he is going to pop up magically. We should have a command at GMPC. So the idea of knight d4 might be interesting. That is actually what I played, and it felt, I mean, it looked good. There's nothing like seriously wrong with it, but at the same time, I didn't really feel like it was the best way to go. My opponent simply took, take, and played queen c2. He kind of won this line, and I didn't really like it. I played queen b7 to stop you from entering any of it, so I kind of like that idea about it. But now white actually did gain a tiny bit more advantage. So white to move, what can you do that you couldn't do a few moves ago? And my opponent actually missed this. I was so scared of this move. Nope, think a little more. Yes, Yaroslav, queen d2. And it would make it uncomfortable. It's not like white is winning, but it was definitely going to make my life more miserable. Um, so yeah, if you I mean you're not really going to go for this check at the moment, but you are but this is going to be a little bit more weakness. Now you can again try to go from the other side, keep more pressure, try to bring more stuff to just put more pressure. So that's why you should like White should have done this, and White should have gone for this idea. um if White would play this, I actually, it's a very uncomfortable position. I sincerely don't know what I would have done. Um, yeah. It does, yeah. I mean, there's nothing else to do besides h5. So Queen d2 was White's chance to actually win this game, and he missed it, the Grandmaster. So it is very possible to, like, not just because you're higher rated and you're a grandmaster doesn't mean that you are going to find everything. So that's one thing to keep in mind when the lower rated players play with the higher rated opponent. You don't have to be scared of him. You should just try to eliminate all possible plans. And I missed this. I missed it. So he just went king g2, and now I was like, okay, I gotta be careful. Now this is happening. So let's do king h7. So if you go queen d2, I have bishop g7. Whew. In the game, he played bishop b2, and I just went e5. Alright, so this pawn is fixed. This pawn is defending it. This guy is defending that guy. And now I could just try to bring up the knight. Maybe I can try to go to a4. That looks cute. In the game, he went queen b3, stopping my knight ideas, and I went back king g7. There is no more attack on h6, so I can't. He went back bishop c1. I'm assuming he also realized that potentially this was kind of fun. I went back. Nope, I'm going back. I'm gonna defend it. And I just simply wasted a few moves. I was also trying to reach move 40th, so I could get my extra time, and I was just waiting to see what he wants to do. As soon as I realized, okay, so he's not exactly going for f4, that gave me another idea. Now I can go queen to c8 and start looking into this. Maybe I can go queen c3. In the game, he rightfully played bishop d2, stopping this. Now, black to move, what do you think we should do? Oh, my minor pieces are not that sad. Oh, it's 5 a.m. in Iran. Yeah, that makes sense. My mom is asleep. Well, Yaroslav, we're not exactly trying to break through. We're just trying to improve the pieces. And that's kind of what we're going for in this position. Oh, 2 a.m. in Belgium. Jesus. It is pretty late. I'm so glad you guys are still watching me, though. Yeah, let's get the knight out. Whoops. Yeah, let's get the knight out. You stop my queen c3, knight e6. Yeah, the idea of g5 was also possible, but knight e6 kind of makes more sense. And I'm just slowly bringing up my pieces. He played queen a2. I just went h5. Again, to be fair, g5 was the way to go, because g5, h5, and then I could have tried to maybe bring up the queen a little, maybe just try and maneuver the bishop around. This would have been a little bit more doable with g5, but I was scared of my f5 square and this knight somehow getting to it. But it's going to be very hard to do that. Like, you would have to make some seriously killer maneuver, just try to get here. My head hurts just looking at it. I played h5. h5 kind of gave this g5 square to my opponent, and it wasn't the most accurate way, and he immediately spotted it. He was like, okay, I got the g5 square. Let's go back, boys. But it's not like a serious, it's not a huge advantage, it's just like a tiny bit, but it's like a tiny bit of hope, psychologically and chessy. Ooh, GMP is awake, grooming himself. Queen d7, knight f3, going after g5, and I went knight c7. I kind of gave up on g5. This wasn't exactly as ideal as possible, but I really wanted to try to get to these squares or try to do d5. That was my idea. He just went, yeah, I should have just went for knight d8 and just tried to keep it super cool, but I maybe knight f7, hold that square. I went to knight c7 and I got queen a7. So now, black to move, what to do? Ah, thank you, Nimi. That is very nice of you. Good night. Or good morning for you. I literally, it is pretty late there. Ah, bishop d8. Not exactly. You gotta start using this king. I went king f7. Kind of proud of my king f7. Because this king, I mean, you gotta use it. You are, yeah, you shouldn't self-pin. Exactly. Thank you everybody. So bishop g5, and I was like, yep, I gotta take that. I can't exactly play king e7. So take, and now king e7. My self-pin is resolved, and queen b8. My opponent made a mistake. Queen b7 was a little bit better, but to top that, the other mistake was, I think bishop g5 was a little bit premature. Maybe bishop h6, just to holds the advantage a little bit. But anyways, this is the position that we ended up in. Now, black to move, what should we do? Ah, this is tea, not coffee. I try not to have more than 1 cup of coffee per day. I'm Middle Eastern, I love tea. Ah, maybe knight a6. No, you should be careful because knight a6 is possible, but queen g8 is very scary. So if you do knight a6, you have to know what to do after queen g8. Take, well, not that. Take, it's a little bit scary. I wouldn't exactly want to end in this position. These are some seriously strong pawns, and this is somewhat of a sad king. I didn't want to risk it. Maybe somebody else would, but I didn't. I wanted safe on side. I wanted queen d8. If you take it, great. I'll take it back, and now I can't eat that guy. He was smart. He played queen b6, not taking it. Queen d7, just waiting. If you repeat, awesome. If not, my queen is there, stopping all these ideas. I can try to move my knight a little. He played king h2 actually. Don't really know why. I just went queen c8, trying to improve a little bit. He could have done queen c6, which he did, trying to still self-pin me, but again, queen d7. So I was trying to get somewhat of a perpetual here, but it wasn't the right time, and he wasn't really having it. He was still fighting because he had the more active knight, more active queen, so he was still fighting. Knight e6, and he took. Here I took with king, which was fine, but this started to bother me a little because now I have to move my queen. Yeah, I'm attacking, but this is a little uncomfortable. So black to move, what do you think we should do? Should you hold the position with just moving the king around, or should you actually open up? Yep, you should hold. Yeah, you should play this like king d7. Simple hold, just keep moving the king around. Your queen is amazing, this king can't move. You're great, don't mess it up. That's all you should have done. Just put the king to d7 and chill. But I can't chill all the time, so I played d5. d5 was a mistake because queen c1 would have punished me, because now you're getting queen c6, you want to take over here, your queen is activated. In the game he simply took, I took back and went queen h8. Now this queen is beginning to be a little pokey and I'm in serious some time trouble. So I played queen f5, which was a bad move. I saw a pawn, I wanted to go eat it, but it was bad. I should have just played queen d7, keep my cool, don't give up any pawns. I thought queen g8, losing this pawn would be inevitable, but I was wrong about that. My queen should have just stayed on like the 6th rank and just protected the king. I didn't do that. I thought I could play aggressively and I played queen f5. It was a mistake. Now, what do you think white can do to punish me? Whoops. I agree, Exquisite. It does feel pretty scary. Yeah, Luke, you're right. Queen a8. Check, you gotta move the king. Another check, you gotta move the king, and eats here. Ta-da! Now, I realized that we were both in serious time trouble, and I realized that I have to bluff my way out of this. Otherwise, I've just lost the pawn. My opponent is feeling pretty awesome right now. He just ate my pawn, and I will lose this game. It's already +2 for my opponent anyways, and this is an easy endgame to win. So I was like, okay, so I have a choice. Either I'm gonna bluff my way out of it, or I'm gonna get busted and have to have some ice cream after the game. So I played e4. Yes, e4 is actually a losing move, not because of the move e4, not because of the queen endgame, because of the pawn endgame, because you can take, and you have this outside passed pawn, and all you have to do is just play king f1. Yeah, you're winning. Or you can even take this. Take and then king f1. I can't really do much because also g4 is happening and you have these two passed pawns. So that is why we should always know our pawn endgame, because at almost 2600 didn't feel comfortable in his pawn endgame skills. Because if he did, you don't really need to calculate. You should be like, okay, e4 is weird, I can just take it, and I have this pass pawn, and I can also create this pass pawn. Huh, that's a weird move. And that should be it. There shouldn't be much calculation. There should be just like pawn endgames, pass pawns, 2 of them, whoops, let's go. And my bluff actually worked. After e4, he did not take it. He played queen c4, and now I'm back in the game. After queen c4, I just played king b7. He took, I took, king moved, and now I also have a pass pawn. Queen endgames, you need to have pass pawns. Like, you don't have pass pawns, you should create pass pawns. I went king b6, and I was actually beginning to get a little too excited, and I was throwing in some checks, and now actually if you were to take it, well, I win. That is, we all can agree on that. But here my opponent played queen c6. Now, black to move, what to do? Should we go? Should we take this pawn? Is this a winning endgame for black? Is this a losing endgame? Is the draw? What is it? Yep, exquisite. Oh, I'm glad you like this, Kirstu. What do you think, guys? Should we take that? Why not? We can take the play king b6, eat the pawn. What's wrong with that? My king is close enough. You take b6, I pick up your pawn. What's wrong with it? We should take it, yeah. Take, king b6. In the game he went king f3, take, king c5, you're protecting your pawn. But this is also a draw, because you just kind of wait around, and here we agreed to a draw, because my king is right on time. I could take, and just bring my king, and it's right on time. You'd have 3 moves, I have 3 moves to get here. So yeah, it was a draw, and I'm very glad that I found it, and I wasn't scared of my pawn endgame skills. And the funny part was that when I actually played this e4, I knew that it is my e4 here. I knew I was losing. It was just a matter of bluffing, and I'm very proud that I did that. So with that, that is one of my favorite games that I actually got away. So I hope you guys enjoy it. That is kind of all the time that we have for tonight. And this is my official last stream for 2020. I know I've said that before, but this time is true, because also there's only 2 more days left on the calendar. And I will see you guys next Tuesday. Hope you have a great end of your year. Have a lot of cake and champagne, and I will see you Tuesday. Have a great rest of your year. See you in 2020.